we all know that it's October, and so I thought that I might try and read a scary book, or at least a little bit spooky. This one's more philosophical. Now, when you try and read a book on stream, or on YouTube, or on anything, you run into copyright problems. So I found a way around. You use a book that's in the public domain, and you cheat by writing your own translation. Tonight we're going to read how do you say that in English? Faust, Part 1, by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Translation by me. And here I am shuffling through all my notes, because, I have a lot of them. My German is fantastic, but my Middle Old High German, like you would hear in something from Faust, is, it's less than perfect. It's not good. It's good, it's just not perfect. And so, I'm hoping you'll enjoy me reading. I think we'll go just through the prelude and see how this ends up. In any case, I hope that you can enjoy the prelude or the prologue. Let's do the prelude. The prelude, because this is actually a play, is meant to be read by the stage manager, a poet, and somebody who's there just for the yucks. Says the manager, "You two who often stood next to me in times of trouble and gloom, what do you think of our enterprise? Should bring to German lands and people. I want the crowd to be well satisfied. And, for as you know, it lives and lets us live. The boards are nailed, the stage is set, and all the world looks for a lavish feast. They sit with eyebrows upraised and calmly wait to be amazed. I have my ways to keep these people well occupied, but never was I in a fix like this. It's true, they're not accustomed to the best. Yet they have read an awful lot of books. How shall we, a new story and a new fresh approach, and make things significantly pleasant? I'll grant it pleases the crowd to watch, as they stream and hustle to our tent, or in my case, our live stream, and with mighty and repeated labors press on through the narrow gate of grace. While the sun still shines, it's barely 4 o'clock. They fight and scramble to get to the ticket window, as if, in a famine, they're pounding at the bakery door. They almost break their necks to gain admission. The poet alone can work this miracle on such a varied group. My friend, the time is now, says the poet. Oh, speak no more of motley crowds to me. Their presence makes my spirit flee. Veil from my sight those waves and surges that struck down into the raging pools. Take me rather to a quiet cell where purged delight blooms only for the poet, where our inmost joy is blessed and grown by love and friendship in the hand of God alone. Alas, what sprang from our deepest feelings, what our lips timidly tried to form, failing now and perhaps succeeding, is devoured by a single brutish moment. Often it must filter through the years before its final form appears perfected. What gleams in tinsel is but for the moment. What's true remains intact forever, says the comedian. Oh, save me from such talk of the future. Suppose I were concerned with my future children, then who would cheer our present generation? It lusts for fun and should be gratified. A fine young fellow in the present tense is worth a lot when all is said and done with. If he can charm and make the public feel at ease, he will not mind its changing moods. He seeks the widest circle for himself, so that his act thereby be more telling. I have some notes. The translation is not perfect. And now be smart and show your finest qualities. Let fantasy be heard with all its many voices, as well as mind and sensibility and passion, and then be sure to add a dose of nonsense, says the stage manager. Above all, let there be sufficient action. They come to gaze and wish to see a show. If many things reel off before their eyes, so that the mob can gape and be astonished, then you will sway the great majority and be a very popular man. The mass can only be subdued by massiness, so each can pick a morsel for himself. A large amount contains enough for everyone, and each will leave his contented with the same. Give us the piece you write in pieces. Try your fortune with a potpourri that's quickly made and easily dished out. What good is it to sweat and create a whole? The audience will pick yet the thing to pieces, says the poet. You do not feel the baseness of such handiwork. How improper for an artist worth his salt. I see the botchery, or actually botchery is the only word I can think of. I see the botchery of your neat companions has been the maxim of your enterprise, says the stage manager, clearly annoyed by this poet. Such reproaches leave me unperturbed. A man who wants to make his mark must try to wield the best of tools. You have coarse wood to split. Remember that. Consider those for whom you write. A customer may come because he's bored. Another may have had too much to eat or to drink. And what I abhor most of all, some have just put down their evening paper. They hurry here distracted as to a masquerade, and seek us out from mere curiosity. The ladies come to treat the audience to their charms and play their parts without a salary. That's pretty sexist. Now, are you still a dreamer on poetic heights, yet content when our house is filled? Observe your benefactors at close range. Some are crude, others are cold as ice. And when it's finished, this one wants a deck of cards, and that one pleasure in a whore's embrace. Why then invoke and plague the muses for such a goal as this, poor fools? I say to you, give more and always more, and then you cannot miss by very much. You must attempt to mystify the people. They're much too hard to satisfy. And what's got into you? Are you so anguished or ecstatic? Says the poet. Go find yourself another slave. The poet, I suppose, should wantonly give back, so you be pleased the highest right that nature granted him, the right of man. How does the poet stir all hearts? How does he conquer every element? Is it not the music welling from his heart that draws the world into his breast again? When nature spins with unconcern the endless thread and winds it on the spindle, when the discordant mass of living things sounds its sullen, dark cacophony, Who divides the flowing, changeless line, infusing life and gives it pulse and rhythm? Who summons each to common consecration, where each will sound in glorious harmony? Who bids the storm accompany his passions, the sunset cast its glow on solemn thought? Who scatters every fairest April blossom along the path of his beloved? Who braids from undistinguished verdant leaves a wreath to honor merit? Who safeguards Mount Olympus? Who unites the gods, man's power, which in the poet stands revealed? This guy's serious. You kidding me? Says the comedian. Very well. Then put to use those handsome powers and carry on the poet's trade, as one who carry on a love affair. One meets by accident, emotes and lingers, and by one is entangled. One's bliss increases, then one is in trouble. One's rapture grows and follows grief and pain. Before you know, your story is completed. We must present a drama of this type. Reach for the fullness of human life. We live it all, but few live knowingly. If you but touch it, it will facsimilate. That rhymes better in German. A complex picture without clarity, much error with little spark of truth. That's the recipe to brew the potion, whence all the world is quenched and edified. The fairest bloom of youth will congregate to see the play and wait for revelation. Then every tender soul will eagerly absorb some food for melancholy from your work. The first one and then the other thing is stirred. So each can find what's in his heart. They weep and they laugh quite easily. They honor fancy and they like their make-believe. The finished man, you know, is difficult to please. A growing mind will ever show you gratitude. This comedian is talking some shit. But, you know, that's what comedians are for. Says the poet, indignantly. Then let me live those years again when I could still mature and grow. When songs gushed up as from a spring that ceaselessly renewed itself from within. When all the world was veiled in mist and every bud concealed a miracle. When I gathered up 1,000 flowers that richly decked the slopes of the field, then I had nothing, and yet I had enough. A yen for phantoms and an urge for the truth. Give me back my unconstrained desires, my deep and painful time of bliss, the strength of hate, the force of love. Give me back again my youth. Says the comedian. You need your youth in any case, my friend. When pressed in battle by a surging foe, when lovely girls with all their strength lock their arms around your neck, when far away the victor's wreath lures the runner to a hard-to-win goal, when a frenzied whirling dances you feast and drink throughout the night, but to pluck the lyre's familiar strings with courage and graceful mind, to sweep through charming aberrations to a self-appointed goal. That, gentlemen, is where your duty lies. And we honor you no less for it. They say that age makes people childish. I say it merely finds us still true children. Says the manager. Sufficient words have been exchanged. Now at last I want to see some action. While you are turning pretty compliments, some useful things should be afoot. What good is it to speak of inspiration? To him who hesitates, it never comes. Since you are poets by profession, call out and commandeer some poetry. You are acquainted with our needs. We wish to swallow potent brew. So do not dally any longer. What you put off today will not be done tomorrow. You should never let a day slip by. That's a wonky translation. How did I come up with that in college? I blame college. Let resolution grasp what's possible and seize it boldly by the hair. Then you will never lose your hold, but work steadily because you must. On our German stage, we like to try out all we can, so don't be stingy on this day. With panoramas and machinery, employ the greatest and small celestial light and scatter the stars without constraint. Nor are we short of water, fire, rocky crags, birds, and breasts we have galore. Inside the narrow confines of our boards, you must traverse the circle of creation and move along in measured haste, from heaven through to the world of hell. And that's the end of the prologue of The Tragedy of Dr. Faust, the first part by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Let me know what you think. I translated it myself back in college, and I'm reading my own translation only because a lot of the more recent English translations are not in the public domain. A lot of them are recently copyrighted, and you can't read them on stream. You can't read them on the radio. Probably Amazon has the copyright rights for Audible, which I support. Audible should sponsor me. Buy me some beer sometime. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you'd like to hear me read more books. Let me know if, my diction's screwy. It's the first time I've read for people that weren't my nephew. Give me a little bit of feedback, and I hope to hear from you all again very soon. This is Jim. Normally I'm man versus team. Tonight I'm man versus a book. Have a lovely night.